This is the Wrestling Replay. I am Cato. Welcome to episode number 21, Fyter Fest Week 2 Dynamite Edition. Really good show. Let's get that out the way. But there was a lot of mishaps. A lot of things I didn't like. I like to be a little nitpicky. So, yeah, we're going to get into it. But if this is your first time tuning into the channel, you like what you see, like what you hear, please go ahead, hit that like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. Everybody else, you already know what to do. Let's go ahead and jump into AEW Dynamite. Show kicks off with an amazing matchup between Darby Allin and Brody King. Honestly, I believe this is the type of matchup we needed to see from Brody King before he fought Jon Moxley for that AEW championship. Why? It shows his dominance. It shows him going out there and destroying one of the baby faces for AEW. A loss for Darby Allin to Brody King does not hurt Darby in the slightest. This match was really good. It was everything that you wanted to see as far as like that David and Goliath type matchup. Darby is sitting there fighting for his life, throwing everything he got at Brody King, and things just seem to be not effective at all. I like the fact that the size and the power actually came into effect when during this matchup. A lot of times you see like the smaller guys getting the best of the bigger guys, and you're like, man, that doesn't even seem realistic, right? This matchup was perfect. I liked everything about it. Towards the end of the matchup, now Brody King did win this matchup. That's why I say it would have built great momentum going against Jon Moxley. It would have made it seem like, man, this guy is a real dominant force to the people who have not seen Brody King in singles action. If this is your first time laying eyes on Brody King in AEW, you kind of got a sense of what he could do when you see him in tag team matchups. But when you see him in a one-on-one match, it really shows and really displays the type of dominance that he had inside the ring. So if you had that guy after this match going against Jon Moxley, it would have made it more believable that this guy can possibly take out Jon Moxley, and how in the world will Jon Moxley possibly retain his championship. Now after the match, things kind of picked up. I liked what's going on here. We got Malakai Black and Sting face to face again. Sting came to make the save for Darby. The lights go out. He finds himself face to face with Malakai Black, and then on the receiving end on a beatdown to Malakai and Brody King. Now what's interesting is, to stop the beatdown, we see Miro come out. His music hit. He makes his way midway down to the ramp. Doesn't enter the ring, but that's enough to stop and kind of leave a puzzling look on Brody King and on Malakai Black. Like, what is he actually doing? Now, if you didn't notice, he did have the eye patch underneath those sunglasses. The last time we seen somebody rock an eye patch, they became a member of the House of Black. So, real question to you is, does Miro fit in the House of Black? Haven't seen Buddy Lee in a while. I don't know where he is. I don't know if he's hurt. I don't know if he's wrestling other shows, whatever he's doing. But could Miro be somebody that we could actually see inside the House of Black? Possibly. I could possibly get on board with that. But I feel like right now with Miro, you're doing well. He is a crowd favorite right now. They're actually on board with him as a face. No need to change it so quick. Let it ride out. Let's see exactly what happened and where it goes from here. Now, the next match, we got to see the Best Friends take on Jon Moxley and Wheeler YUTA. Great tag team matchup. History there. Wheeler YUTA and the Best Friends. We already know how that goes. This was the first little hiccup I seen in the show. There was a spot where Yuta's in the ring, and I'm not sure exactly who he smacks, but he smacks either Chuck Taylor or Trent Beretta. Chuck was inside the ring. Trent was on the apron. I'm assuming he smacks Trent because of the way that Trent reacted and tagged himself in and kind of jumped into the ring. They kind of brawled for a little bit. But yeah, the camera work, for whatever reason, was just panned on the commentary table while they was talking, and we missed I feel like a big one of the bigger spots or interesting spots inside the matchup when Wheeler YUTA, who is very, supposed to be friends with the Best Friends, open hand smacks one of them, I assume Trent, which is like, okay, a legit slap in the face to everything that we have been doing, everything that we have built, our friendship, our relationship. but it was Moxley and Yuta who managed to go over Trent, Beretta, and Taylor. I would have liked to see a different matchup, I'm not going to lie. But I don't mind you building up the Wheeler YUTA and Beretta. That's kind of I feel like where we're going. I wouldn't be surprised if I seen Beretta actually challenge for Yuta's championship after the pay-per-view. I think he'll retain against Garcia. But speaking of tag teams, let's talk about the tag team champions, the new AEW tag team champions, that is. Swerve and Keith Lee celebrating their win, celebrating their new championships, pretty much laying it out on the line. Anyone that want to step up, they could step up. In the midst of this whole celebration, Tony Nese managed to catch a right hand from Kevin Gates during the whole thing. So who is going to be the next tag team to step up and actually challenge Swerve, Scott, and Keith Lee for the championships? Only time will tell. I'm surprised the Young Bucks didn't come out there and, lay their claim for a rematch. But I'm pretty sure something else is probably in the works going over these championships. We also got to see the Varsity Blondes versus Christian Cage and Luchasaurus. I love Luchasaurus and Christian Cage and the work they're doing right now. But this matchup, not only did it notch a win for Christian Cage and Luchasaurus, but it also showed the return of Jungle Boy, which to me, honestly, it was great pop. Jungle Boy got an amazing pop from the crowd, as he should, being who he is. But to me, I feel like you should have saved this for one. Fyter Fest Week 2 is already big. It's already a huge event. You already got great matches going on. You got great segments going on. I feel like you could have saved Jungle Boy's return for maybe a Dynamite where, may not be as packed on the card. You know what I'm saying? And then you have that big return from Jungle Boy. Now, it's a few things that I did not understand at all with Jungle Boy's return. Now, Luchasaurus clearly looked like he was on the side of Christian Cage. Clearly, he had to see what happened to Jungle Boy. Clearly, Jungle Boy's on the shelf. He came out the week after, and he was angry. And he went after Christian Cage. Christian talked him down and somehow talked him to the side, to be on his side and be his partner or his protege or whatever. Now we got a situation. Jungle Boy's come down to the ring. He has a steel chair in hand. The music hits. I like the slow walk down. But then he stops at the bottom. Luchasaurus is standing in front of him, but then he just moves out the way and allows Jungle Boy to chase Christian Cage through the crowd with the chair. It's like, what are we doing? Why? If, let's say it's Luchasaurus, was actually trying to pull a ruse over Christian Cage, trying to pull a wool over Christian Cage's head, why wouldn't you let more weeks build out or let this play out a little bit more? Maybe watch Luchasaurus kind of get, disgruntled or feel belittled by being Christian's sidekick or being, underneath Christian Cage and taking orders. Maybe week after week kind of slowly let it build before he steps aside and let Jungle Boy pretty much, go after Christian Cage. I just thought that was premature as far as Jungle Boy coming back. And we actually see what happened with Luchasaurus and him stepping aside. I feel like they could have built out a lot better against that with that whole storyline, because that's a really good storyline that people are really interested in seeing. So, sometimes more is less. Let it build a little bit, let it simmer. Now, we got to see the FTW champion Ricky Starks defend his title against newcomer the Rookie Cole Carter. Decent matchup, man. Nothing really too much to talk about. Ricky Starks, he retains his championship as he should. We also seen FTR come out. They did an amazing promo. This really set up the match at Death or Before Dishonor with the Briscoes for the tag team championships, the rematch, the ROH tag team championships, that is. After that promo, you have to think that FTR is the legit favorites to go in here and dominate this matchup. You have to think they're going to go in there and fight like some little girls and defeat the Briscoes 2 times in a row. Now, what would have been even better if we would finally have seen the Briscoes on AEW Dynamite TV coming there, later FTR out. After that amazing promo, that would have really set the bar. That would have really set the tone for this pay-per-view coming up. I think that's the only thing they could have capitalized on. For whatever reason, I'm not sure why we have not seen the Briscoes in AEW yet. I don't know if that's something they're going to save. I don't know if that's something that the Briscoes are not interested in. These guys have been, ROH for life, to be honest. So Time will have to tell with that. We also seen a tag team matchup with Athena and Willow Nightingale go against Jade Cargill and Kiera Hogan, the baddies. This was a decent matchup. Didn't like it too much. Honestly, I would have preferred to have Chris Gatliner and Athena inside this matchup. No diss to Willow Nightingale. I like her a lot. But I feel like those two women are the ones who legitly have the most beef with Jade and the baddies. So I feel like it would have just kind of been better or gave more to the storyline that you're going with right now. At least in their segment, we got to see Athena says, look, I'm going to go after Jade. Chris, you go after AEW championship. Finally, we have some type of order of what's actually going on. Chris kind of agreed. I think she still want to get a hand on Jade, but it is what it is. But at least now we know that, Athena has an eye on Jade for that TBS championship. And Chris Gatliner has an eye on the AEW Women's Championship. I like that. Now let's go ahead and jump into our AEW main event. Let me sit up for this. We got Chris Jericho, the Painmaker, going against Eddie Kingston in a barbed wire everywhere death match. The first that we have ever seen with this in AEW. We have the JAS. They're going to be in the Shark Tank, hanging up above the crowd. I have seen so many mixed messages about this matchup. I've seen so many people disappointed. I've seen so many people that was happy and they enjoyed the matchup. For me, I feel like AEW dropped the ball in this main event. I feel like this main event should have had 40 minutes. 40 minutes from start to finish, that is. 40 minutes from the JAS coming out, going into the Shark Tank. For one, I've never seen any heel just willingly go into the Shark Tank. They should have been kicking and screaming going into the Shark Tank. It should have took the referee to say, look, if you don't go into the Shark Tank, the Painmaker Chris Jericho will be disqualified, which will be his first loss as the Painmaker. If you don't want this to happen, you go inside the Shark Tank. Something like that to force these guys to actually go inside the Shark Tank. No one just goes willingly inside the Shark Tank, not as a heel. That was one of my first issues. The intros I thought was great. I love Eddie Kingston coming straight down to the ring, ready to get straight into the action. I like that. Now, the only problem is why I say they should have had at least like 40 minutes for this match start to finish. Soon as we get into the matchup, Eddie Kingston goes right after Chris Jericho, starts beating him with the barbed wire mic. I did like that. The announcer having a barbed wire mic, I thought that was pretty cool. But he started hitting Chris Jericho with his microphone, which is supposed to split Chris Jericho open. Second issue with AEW and their cameraman or whoever's in the truck, on the wrong camera at the wrong time. Once he does this and Chris Jericho drops to the ground, once he does this attack and Chris Jericho drops to the ground, Eddie Kingston, that camera should be panned right on Eddie Kingston's face, listening to anything and everything that he's saying. That camera angle was terrible. It showed things that we don't want to see in wrestling that we know happen in wrestling. All right, if you kind of get my drift. Now, right after the camera finally pans and Jericho lifts his head up, he's bleeding, he's busted open. We're not even a minute into the matchup. We're not even 30 seconds into the matchup, and Jericho's already bleeding. I would have to think because it was not enough time to actually slow build this matchup, which is a surprise because, hell, I've seen hour-long matchups on Dynamite. Let's be honest. That was nowhere near as entertaining as a barbed wire everywhere death match should have been. So why didn't you allot that much time? No diss to Ricky Starks, but that match with Ricky Starks and Cole Carter could have happened on Rampage. They could have took that time and allotted to the main event. You allotted to the main event. I know me and Max, when we used to build out cards, we would start from the top and work our way down so that your main event is always getting the time that you want it to have. I understand some matches can run over, but for the most part, you're going to kind of be right on track of where you want to be at. So that was one of my first issues. The time, I felt like this match was rushed. They pretty much went right to all the spots. All the barbed wire, all the tables, everything. They pretty much was like big spot after big spot after big spot. And I feel like that was because of the time issue. I'm reading my notes because I got a lot of notes on this matchup. All right. The other thing, Tay Conti and Sammy Guevara coming down to the ring. I don't know why they weren't in the shark cage. All right. I don't know why they weren't in the shark cage, but the whole turn with Anna Jay helping out Tay Conti, I like, but we could have did it better. Right? Maybe it was a situation where they said, hey, they don't know if Sammy or Tay is going to actually be there in the arena. No one thought they was here tonight or something like that. And if that's going to happen, that's where you do a segment with the JAS prior to the matchup saying, I don't know where Sammy is. I haven't seen him all day. I don't think he made his flight. You say stuff like that to kind of give the crowd, or at least people like me who pay attention to storylines and stuff, kind of like feed into the fact that, oh man, Sammy's not here. Or, whatever. Anna Jay comes out. She attached Ruby, who was holding the key for the shark cage. We could have done about this way better. It could have been a situation where Eddie Kingston is in the ring, giving a beat down to Chris Jericho, and Ruby's just cheering Eddie Kingston on. She's on the apron. She's banging on the apron. At that time, we could see Anna Jay run down. Anna Jay should run down, knock Ruby Soho out, grab the key, let the shark tank down, unlock the shark tank. And for one, if the shark tank is able to have wrestlers just climb through the whole cage, what's the point of going in the shark tank? I could have jumped out at any moment. As soon as they locked, I could have just slid out before it went up in the air. That made no sense either, but whatever. That made no sense. But Anna Jay, I feel like she should have been the one to come down, drop the cage, and be the one to go in and unlock the cage for the guys to get out. I think that would have made for a much better effect. I don't think a lot of people would have actually seen that coming with Anna Jay by herself. But when Tay Conti was getting beat up and they was in a little brawl and Anna comes down, you kind of already felt what was ready to happen. I feel like you take away that whole part if Conti never comes down and Anna Jay does all the work by herself. Now, with Kingston looking at what's going on outside the ring, seeing that she's letting down the shark tank, he locks on that submission real quick, trying to hurry up and get Jericho to tap out because he knows the boys is coming. That would have been a much better build, a much better story inside the matchup than you just having Tay and Sammy come out, not be in the shark cage at all. So I understand that you're trying to build towards Ruby Soho and Tay Conti, but honestly, it's really hard to kind of get people invested in this storyline. Even with you breaking Ruby's hand, Ruby's using the same hands, throwing punches, throwing a brawl. It's like poor execution in everything that you have been building over the weeks. Now, also in the matchup, Chris Jericho ends up going over. I like it. I don't mind who wins. I even said it before. If Jericho wins, we're going to get this feud and it's never going to end. It's going to be a feud that's going to happen until one of these guys leave AEW. I'm not saying they're going to be fighting week after week after week, but every time these guys cross paths, they're going to go at it. I'm perfectly fine with that. If Eddie Kingston would have went over, I would have felt like this would have been the end of the feud. We would have seen it no more. So we get Chris Jericho going over in the matchup. He hits Eddie Kingston with the Judas effect with the barbed wire wrapped around his arm. Really dope spot. I like that. And he pins him. He's winning. Now, after the matchup, Sammy picks up Eddie Kingston. They're going to deliver a little bit more punishment. But out of nowhere, Eddie gets a burst of energy as if he was just not in a death match. As if he was just not hit with the Judas effect with a barbed wire wrapped around his Chris Jericho's arm. Eddie just cleans house. He cleans house. He's no longer woozy. He's no longer hurt. He's no longer tired. He throws Jericho onto the bit of barbed wire, which was an amazing spot. But I don't like the fact that Eddie Kingston no longer sold the fact that he was just hit with this Judas effect and went through that grueling matchup after he done did everything. That made no sense. That takes things like that, to me, takes away from the matchup. It takes away from a really good main event. Now, I thought it was a good matchup, but I don't watch death matches too often. Only thing I could have said about this was it should have been more of a slow build. It should have been a matchup where each guy is fighting in the beginning not to touch the barbed wire, not to get hit by the barbed wire. I think that would have made perfect sense. I would have loved to see Chris Jericho pamper outside of the ring where there's a little less barbed wire and kind of run around and try to escape Eddie Kingston, who's the madman, and promise to make him bleed all night. I would like to see stuff like that, but I don't think the time allotted for a real slow building matchup in this death match. I've seen guys who watch death matches often, and they love death matches, and they say this was an absolutely horrible death match because these guys were swinging the weapons, have speed, everything looked kind of fake. They walked each other over to each spot. They would have much preferred someone like Jon Moxley or Nick Gage to kind of be in this matchup if you're going to put on a death match. But now you have to think, the average casual fan who does not watch a death match, they just tune in to USA or TNT or TBS to watch their wrestling, they're not thinking about, hey, he's swinging this chair or this bat too slow, he should swing it faster. They're not thinking about, hey, is that fake barbed wire or real barbed wire? Or why is he just walking them over to the spot? They're just looking at it as if this is something I've never seen before, and I can't believe they're showing it on TV. Now, judging by the crowd and the reaction of the crowd, you would never think that this death match wasn't everything that you would want to see inside a death match. But when you have guys who legitimately watch death matches all the time, and this is their thing, like this is their groove, they're more nitpicky than I am when it comes to a match like this, because they know what they want to see and they know what they like. I feel like nowadays wrestling is not like the 90s or early 2000s. Everything is a bit more violent. Once that kayfabe kind of died, I feel like people have turned to deathmatch to kind of get that realism or that feeling of realism back inside of wrestling. So I think when they put the label of deathmatch in the title of this matchup, they kind of set themselves up if you weren't going to go all out. And whatever all out means to these deathmatch people, because I've seen a few clips of death matches, I would never want to be in the death match and have to go all out, especially if you're expecting me back in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks back on the show. You know what I'm saying? But all in all, to me, outside of the time, outside of the story, kind of being a little wishy-washy, I think it could have been better. The action inside the ring, it was good enough for me, to be honest. I wish it was a more of a slow building match, especially for this rivalry, especially for this match to be the match that's supposed to top off everything. We just seen these guys in blood and guts, so we know what type of matchup it's going to be. And for you not to have enough time to really get down and tell a story and just let Eddie and Chris show their passion of how much they really want to win, show the passion of what this rivalry means and winning this rivalry means. Yeah, I think it kind of hurt the matchup a little bit, to be honest. So that's my take on the main event. Deathmatch fans, they hated it. I thought it was decent. I thought it wasn't a bad matchup. It was pretty good. The guys still went out there and, put their bodies on the line. You always got to get your hats off to people who go out there and do that. The casual fans, they absolutely loved it. So it's kind of like a mix from all different type of people of what they'd like to see and what happened in Fyter Fest Dynamite main event. So that was everything that really took place, man. I thought it still was a really good show. I thought this week's Dynamite was better than last week's Dynamite as far as match quality and just the rivalries and things we got to see from people. I feel like we really seen advancement from Brody King. I want to see Brody King more in one-on-one matchups than I want to see Malakai Black in one-on-one matchups. That's kind of what it came down to me right now. So I think that's really big. The only problem is I think they overbooked this show. I think they overbooked Dynamite, and I feel like a lot of people would agree because we could have did much better. This matchup, decent matchup in the main event. I hate for it just to be decent because of everything you got to put your body through. But I feel like it could have been better. I feel like the heel turn with NJ could have been set up a lot better. I would have liked if the guys did not jump out the Shark Tank. Maybe have some cutters just in case the key doesn't work again. I feel like Conti can never get the keys to work when she's supposed to. Is that just me? Like this happened with Blood and Guts, right? She couldn't get the key to open the door. Like, whatever though. But that's about it, man. That's everything that took place on Fyter Fest Dynamite week number 2. Let me know what you guys think. Did you think that Chris Jericho and Eddie Kingston match was as good as it seemed as far as the crowd reaction? Or do you agree with the deathmatch fans? It wasn't that good, and they should have just skipped it and fought a regular one-on-one matchup. And let me know what you guys think about Brody King. I love Brody King in singles action. Shout out to Darby, because Darby took a beating. He took an absolute beating, but he absolutely put Brody over in this one-on-one matchup, man. So shout out to Darby Allin. that's it for me, man. See you guys for the SmackDown and Rampage episode that should be coming out in about a day or two. We got a lot of juicy stuff to dive into with that, but we'll wait for that video to talk about it, all right? I'm Cato. I'm signing out. Peace.